this for a little bit. For about an hour. Oh, hour or so. Fuck, it is chilly in here. What the hell? Fucking nice and warm in the house. It's even kind of warm outside, but nope, not in here. Hell no. It is chilly. Chilly, chilly. Yawn and yawn. And now, YouTube, are you gonna be a good boy today? Are you gonna be a good boy, YouTube? Because, you haven't been fond of sending the notifications out, YouTube. Kind of been sucky. Man, I keep getting recommended random shit from the Vosh pit. What the fuck? The South African presidential candidate is scary. South Africa research. He's doing research streams. You know, I respect the Vosh. I like that. That's cool. Actually doing little research streams to different countries and what's going on in their contemporary affairs. Most base revolutionary. Oh shit, that's Thomas Sankara of Burkina Faso. I know about that guy a little bit. Has it in his little thumbnail for his video. Cool. Looks like he's been doing some research streams lately and kind of delving into some, looks like African history and shit. Yeah, at least when it comes to modern history. At least what it looks like with leftism and shit. Progressivism. That's pretty cool. I'll have to check out that video. See what's going on in South Africa. Outside of probably back and forth, you know, racist culture, strife and shit, I'm assuming. Like, I mean, it seems like South Africa is always known to have some variation of that. Where is my lighter? I need a lighter. No. Oh no. Where did my lighter go? What the fuck? Well, oh no. Oh, what the hell? Yeah, where did my lighter go? It's all nice and pink. It's pink so it's visible. No! Oh no! Seriously? God damn it. Didn't have it in my room at all. Well, what the hell? That's some bullshit. If I do say so myself. Fucking hell. Is it over here? No? Yeah, no, no matter, what the fuck? Is it on the ground, like, at all? No? Well, this is odd. Yeah. No lighter. That's some bullshit. No, this bullshit. This nose is about to fucking start getting runny. Fuck. Jesus. Man, where'd that come from? God damn. Man, I felt something building up. I didn't think it was going to be like an artillery howitzer piece. Jesus. Wait. I'm just going to be looking. What in the fuck is that letter? Alright, it's evidently. It's probably in my room then. It's only your spot. Yeah. Hey, my boy. Okay, I'm an idiot. It was in my room. Come on, boy. Actually, was in my room. And wow, I'm not surprised. YouTube no notification day. Yeah, YouTube is being a shitbag, huh? Oops. There we go. Hold on, let's do one thing real quick, y'all. There we go. Okay, cool. YouTube, you suck fucking dick. You don't wanna send out the notifications, 'cause that be some bunch of bullshit, yeah. 'Cause what the fuck? It's like, come on, YouTube. Ain't that fucking hard. Here. Let's see what's chilling out on the tube. We have things to look at. JD Vance gets brutally embarrassed by Tim Ryan. Who? And who? During an Ohio Senate debate. So, a senator and a maybe soon to become senator. Alright. I might check that out in a minute. So who's supposed to be who? JD Vance. I mean, sounds like a CEO. And Tim Ryan, that sounds familiar. I think that's a Republican. I think. I don't fucking know. It's Ohio, so it's sort of, like, I mean, it's actually kind of like a big fucking major electoral state, but like, it just seems to be like a pretty right-wing state overall, considering that there's a lot of Republican control there. See what else on Human Sport. What's going on there? Well, Tulsi Gabbard Gabbard is being a grift. Tulsi Griftered. That's not a good nickname. But, man, what a fucking grifting bitch. She always rubs me the wrong way. But here, I might as well check that out. See what stupid shit she decided to, like, make for a little announcement or whatever. What type of stupid shit are you trying to grift out now? Actually, you know what? I already know what that is. It's just basically being like another token Republican, essentially, while trying to have this veneer of being an independent. I guarantee you that's exactly what the fuck it is. I'm gonna be a token Polynesian Republican so I can say, like, fucking, you know, like, grifty Republican talking points. At least with the title of the video, I guarantee you there's obviously some anti-white racism that she mentions, which, Tulsi, you're fucking, like, you're Polynesian. You're not white. So why the fuck do you care? Like, what the fuck? It's just so fucking dumb. And I guess wokeness or some shit, which, like, coming from her, considering that she cares a lot about the indigenous identity of Hawaii and, like, the indigenous people of Hawaii and shit like that, that's woke. That sounds like some woke shit, Gabbard. But yet, oh, when it comes to queer people or trans folk or, you know, feminism or whatever the fuck, suddenly it's just like, oh no, God fucking forbid we have that. And also a Hindu nationalist, like, she supports Modi, the far-right fascist in India too, so she's a cunt for that as well. like Gabbard is just like, I mean, just honestly just like one of just the right-wing Democrats now, but probably independent. If not, just a Republican at this point. But if she is Republican, she'd basically be considered a, quote, moderate one. And probably the most woke one out of them, because she, you know, does advocate, like, indigenous Hawaiian advocacy and shit like that in the past. I don't know about now, but she has in the past before. Though I guess that doesn't really mean shit, because, well, she doesn't really have a core idea in her fucking head. Outside of being a fucking stooge for the military-industrial complex. While painting a veneer that she's anti-war, which she isn't.
So apparently Tulsi Gabbard is no longer a Democrat. Now, I, for one, actually thought that she had already left the Democratic Party, but it's naive of me to assume that she wouldn't go out in some loud manner, because this is what grifters do. They make an announcement and a spectacle of everything because they're trying to position themselves for their next grift, and that is exactly what Tulsi Gabbard is doing.
Sukov,
So it's official. Now she is no longer part of the Democratic Party, and her reasoning, as you're going to see in this video, is deeply unserious. Take a look.
I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that's under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by
Okay, well, that's just, so the first point so far, I honestly, okay, I like how she starts with something that's at least, like, most people can probably agree with, because even leftists could agree with that, but that's a part of her grift, that's a part of the catch. It's like, you gotta get a hook. It's like, oh, okay, agreeable point so far, because sure, yeah, there's a lot of warmongers and fucking elitists and, you know, in the Democratic Party. Like, sure. She sounds so enthusiastic. I know, so enthusiastic. Walking into movies right now, when I saw Marjorie Taylor Greene / Stop Communism signs, I knew I had come to a neighborhood of tolerance and acceptance of new ideas. Oh, 100%. When you see Marjorie Taylor Greene signs and stopping communism signs as you go to the movie theater, you know you're in a very inclusive, diverse area.
who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism.
Huh? Racializing every issue and stoking anti-white... Wait, what? Like the Republicans are trying to do by literally peddling and pushing this false idea of, like, the Great Replacement theory, which is, that's just a dog whistle. Like, anti-white racism essentially is just like a dog whistle of, like, we're being replaced as white people. It's just like a very soft, tacit, like, yeah, I kind of think that's at least somewhat meritable of an idea, which is inherently a fascist idea. Because it's the idea that your race is culturally ethnically and socioeconomically being replaced. Like, that, which is just ridiculous on the surface, just from the get-go.
Undermine our God-given freedoms that are enshrined in...
You're not Christian, you're a fucking Hindu. You believe in gods and goddesses, not a god. What? Like, you're fucking, like, you're Hindu. What? Like, I mean, I mean, that's not honestly, like, new about her either. Like, she used to be Christian for a little bit, and then, like, I don't, like, back in, like, the mid-2010s, she came out as a Hindu and shit. So, and ever since then, it's also been very heavily supportive of Modi, the fascist Hindu nationalist in India, and has been okay, and actually, if anything, a tacit supporter to a lot of his oppressive policies and a lot of his oppressive shit that he's been doing, especially towards Islamic communities that are within India. So she's totally fine with, you know, like, talking about these God-given rights and stuff, but, you know, I guess when it comes to certain religions, she's just totally against that. I guess Hinduism and Christianity is fine, but, you know, anything else, nope.
Who are hostile to people of faith and spirituality, who demonize...
I mean, if there literally are a bunch of, like, fundamentalist extremists and, like, religio-fascists of, you know, some sort of a stripe, then yeah, fuck them. Like, I mean, their shit shouldn't be, you know, accepted or normalized by any means. Fuck that shit. I mean, I'd go a step further and just say religion as a concept should be challenged and fought back against, just, you know, as an idea, let alone fucking, you know, just some more extreme variants of it. But, you know, I'm not just an atheist, I'm also anti-theorist, so when it comes to that type of shit.
Protect criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans, who believe in open borders, who weaponize the national security...
Oh my god, okay, holy shit, this is, I can't respond to all this. Wow, jeez, she's just, like, filling up every fucking far-right Republican talking point she can in a little bit of time, isn't she? It's like open borders, criminals over law-abiding citizens, fucking, like, what, I don't even, like, what else, I don't even know, like, Jesus Christ. Just say you're a fucking Republican, bitch. Just say you're a fucking right-winger and you support the GOP outright. Just, I mean, it's like, I know she, you know, left Democratic Party to be independent. I guarantee she's going to say something about that. She's going to be like, I, you know, want my independent Democrats to join me and all be independents or something. Like, you know, just to have this veneer of, like, I'm not Republican.
Their political opponents, and above all, who are dragging us ever closer to nuclear war.
I don't think Democrats are doing that. What? Democrats are getting us closer to nuclear war? My screen froze to see my last comment. Oh yeah, here it is. March 26, and that's when 5 guys in Confederate hats came out of the wooded area along with a grizzly bear with a shotgun. Long story short, I made it out just fine. Well, yeah, they just want to make sure that you're safe. It's like, hey, we want to make sure that you're safe there, buddy. We don't want some bitch, you know, trying to come and kill you now. We have a grizzly bear as our defense dog. It's our defense grizzly bear. It's a emotional support animal for you know, Billy Bob over there. It's a little support bear.
Even a government that's of the people, by the people, and for the people. Unfortunately, today's Democratic Party does not. Instead, it stands for a government that is of, by, and for the powerful elite.
Okay, that part's true, but guess what? The Republican Party is literally the same thing, and also in many ways worse with that. Like, you're just describing both, you know, just really just the whole Democratic, system in general, let alone the Democratic or Republican side of that. Like, both parties are like that.
On my fellow common sense, independent-minded Democrats.
Fucking called it. Common sense, independent-minded Democrats. Knew it. I fucking called it. I fucking called it. I knew it was going to be like, oh, I'm not Republican, I'm independent now. Fucking called it. It's like, I'm calling for my, you know, common sense-minded independence. You know, it's like, fuck off. Like, oh my god. Like, give me a break. You literally are like making like fucking softball Tucker calls to talking points. But oh, I'm independent though, and I want other independents to join me. It's like, fuck you.
Join me in leaving the Democratic Party.
No, oh my god, I knew it.
If you can no longer stomach the direction that the so-called woke Democratic Party ideologues are taking our country, then I invite you to join me.
Tulsi, no, come back! Tulsi, no! Tulsi, Tulsi, Tulsi. What are we gonna do without you? Without you, without you. Please come back, come back, come back. Oh, Tulsi.
I'm a free thinker. Only watches Fox News. I mean, I guarantee you, like, I mean, Tulsi probably listens to more than just Fox, but, like, Jesus Christ. I mean, like, everything about that was just basically like, I'm a Republican, but I'm not openly going to be a Republican. Which basically just means that she's just going to be making a lot of fucking bank being on Fox and shit like that, too, probably. Doesn't she have, like, a regular, like, appearance on different Fox shows anyway, at this point?
I
mean, she's basically literally just like another, you know, token card for Republicans to be like, see, we're not racist because we have, like, you know, minorities like Candace Owens and Kanye West and Tulsi Gabbard and stuff, you know what I mean?
Them in order to perhaps one day ask for their votes. If not for the president, perhaps to be the governor of Hawaii or something like that. Or
I don't think she would try to run for president again. If she did, she ain't getting far. She never went far the first time, and sure as shit, she ain't gonna now.
Form on Fox News or Newsmax or something like that.
I mean, the only reason why she got at least somewhat far as she did within Democratic primaries and shit last time was because she still had this veneer of sounding like a progressive lefty type. Like, you know, being especially more predominant about, like, her anti-war stances. But honestly, if you listen to her a lot, you know, especially during those, like, debates and shit, she would always mention, like interventionism wars and, like, and shit like that. And specifically, like, endless war type of conflicts. She would never mention anything about specifically, like, aiding other nations with their military ventures or, you know, military collaborations or covert military operations. It's like she was still interventionist, but not full-on ground war, like, boots on the ground, like, classic OG style, like, you know, military operation shit. You know, like a war type of thing. She wants to more modernize, we're gonna make it look clean. Like, she's an interventionist and pro-war, but she just wants it to look nice and soft. A chicken hawk. Which is what the Democrats tend to be and shit, because they don't want to have, like, shock and awe and blitzkrieg tactics and shit. They'd rather have, like, soft covert operations like, oh, hey, we'll have, like, you know, SEAL Team 6, you know, do an operation or some shit. And maybe a drone strike here and there. Oh, I get it. And when a minority talks bad about their group, they're one of the good ones. But when they're like, hey, maybe we did some bad shit, the right there, and the right is there, the right there is white guilt boy. Yeah, hypocrisy. Yeah. Where it's just like, oh, it's like, hey, look, you know, it's like, you know, just like our group, you know, probably did some fucked up shit and stuff in the past. It's like, but you just, you know, or like an anti-white person, you just, you know, have, you know, guilt and just want to, like, apologize for stuff you never did, bro. It's just like, what? It's like, no. It's an, like, acknowledgement of shit that was fucked that happened in the past or contemporarily, and even though I had no control over that, like, no shit, I have no power of, like, you know, whatever random Atlantic slave trade shit happened, or fucking, you know, the, you know, colonialism that happened in times past. Obviously I have no control over it. Like, but, you know, acknowledgement and an understanding of that history and the fucked upness of what that was, and using that knowledge to make a better, more prosperous society in the future, especially for the people who were most heavily impacted by that fucking shit, tends to, I don't know, be a better outcome for everybody versus just like, oh my god, just what you get. Because there's nothing, like, there's no guilt about it. Like, I mean, I'm not guilty for it. I just think it's fucked up and wish to have today and tomorrow and the future be better, you know, instead of, you know, how it was in the past. So, it's like, huh? I guess that means I'm guilty of being this, I suppose. Don't know how, but I guess it does.
Nonsensical. What she's saying is completely idiotic, because the Democratic Party between the time she ran for president to leave this party and now has not substantially changed. So why is it that all of a sudden it's too much for you to stomach, but just 2 years ago the Democratic Party was a party that you wanted to leave? Sure, she had her criticisms of the Democratic Party. We all do. But now it's just so intolerable that she can't take it and she has to leave the Democratic Party. Does this not reek of opportunism? Does this not seem like she is shamelessly trying to grift here? She also...
Can't silence. Black people are the problem. The same exact people. Yes! Yes! She's confirming our biases and our bigotry. Yes!
The Democratic Party is hostile to people of faith and spirituality. Again, how so? I, for one, am an anti-theist. I've made that abundantly clear. But I would never ban religion. I would never try to discriminate against or persecute somebody who practiced the religion. I would just try to convince them to not subscribe to any religion. But that's not an
attack. I say yes. I mean, because that's honestly, it's just like how I, that's how I imagine it. It's just like, in their head, they're just like, yes! They confirm our biases, yes! Because it just sounds very neckbeardy and just very, like, just really, really, like, kind of, like, basement dwellery, like, just, like, it has just that very, like, thick, just emphasis on that.
Disagreement. In what way, however...
I feel like it just encapsulates, how they speak in a lot of ways.
Party attacking religion and spirituality. Most Democrats are religious. So this just makes no sense. Again, it's just a right-wing talking point. It's not supposed to make sense. These vapid talking points aren't intended for people like you or me. This is intended for a very narrow audience which she's trying to appeal to. Also, Democrats demonize the police but protect criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans. I don't understand how you can say this when Biden has consistently called for increases in funding to the police.
And also various different Democratic city officials and mayors and shit like that have also done that.
And this is what Republicans were saying in 2020. Again, why was...
Like Ted Wheeler in Portland, a Democratic mayor, increased the funding to the fucking cops. So that's just one example of many. On top of just, on the bigger national heads of things as well.
Then, but it's only an issue now. Joe Biden... quite literally was the individual who Tulsi Gabbard endorsed back in 2020 over Bernie Sanders. So what's so different about him as the president now compared to when he was running for president when you endorsed him? It makes no sense, right? Also, she says, I believe in a government that's of, by, and for the people. Unfortunately, today's Democratic Party does not. Now, she says that the party is run by elites. That's true. Both parties are run by elites. But again, this hasn't changed since she ran as a Democrat in 2020, since she was a congressional Democrat before 2020.
I mean, I'd say, honestly, the only thing that has changed is the fact that there has been some very tiny, very, like, varying between, like, insignificant to somewhat significant progress on different levels. Like, partying, all marijuana offenders and shit like that, and then like the cancellation of some, I assume that at least. I mean, there's at least some elements where there actually has been actual progress to an extent, as small and as little as it is. So it's like that's really honestly the only real difference is that the Democratic Party that actually has finally done something. Or at least some things, in like the past year. But beyond that, like how they are and just like their overall, demeanor, presence, and presentation and politics overall is not different. Like they haven't really significantly or fundamentally changed at all because, well, that's essentially, it's what Biden says, like nothing will fundamentally change. That doesn't mean that we'll change some stuff, just nothing fundamentally.
Just all of a sudden, she can't stomach it. I mean, she's so full of shit. You can smell it through the video. It's embarrassing. And the implication is that...
I mean, honestly, a lot of it, in my mind, is because she thinks that, like, oh, even these tiny little changes is just way too much. We have to be more incremental and basically continue to status quo as it is. Like, she's just another fucking corporate, down the line, typical, like, status quo, panderer. Like, that's just what the fuck she is. And she's just using this type of shit as the way to continue and garner that status quo, because it keeps people more distracted away from the real core root of the actual fucking problems, and be distracted by fucking grifters and peddlers that are making money off of it, just like, you know, the people that they want to scapegoat. Which is like, oh, the elites and blah 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 blah. It's like, yeah, and it's like you seem to really leave out a very large swath and chunk of, you know, who happens to be elitist or not, which happens to be a lot of a majority, if really frankly, especially the entire GOP and the Republican Party, but a good majority of, you know, of it at the very best, if not all of them. So you're only calling out one little chunk of it, but that's what helps keep the divide, and it's what helps keep the status quo perpetrated, instead of looking at the, you know, whole fucking root of the problem. But she benefits off of it because she's a part of that.
Of all political parties, the two that we have, they're the ones who believe in a government of, by, and for the people. They quite literally tried to stage a coup to kill democracy in the United States. So to make this critique of the Democratic Party in 2022 is a little bit absurd. You can criticize both parties. Perhaps the Democratic Party isn't very fair when it comes to Democratic Party primaries. But she's just implying it's only Republicans who care about democracy. She says this after we all saw the 2020 insurrection attempt.
Like an actual fascist coup attempt. Like, she wants to cry about how, you know, the Democratic Party, which, sure, isn't, you know, like, you know, advocating a government by and for the people or whatever the fuck, and it's ran by elites and shit, but you have the same exact thing going on with the Republican Party, and also worse because they galvanized a bunch of far-right fascists to literally try to do a fucking coup so they can maximize their fucking power in government. So, yeah, like, you know, with that logic, that, you know, would mean that the Republicans, you know, even if both parties are guilty of, you know, not being a system or a party, you know, by and for the people, you know, in the most democratic way possible, whatever the fuck, the Republicans are just worse with it. And the Democratic Party is at least somewhat, like, marginally better about it. It's not saying much. But if you're going to say that, oh, like, Democratic Party's guilty of this, then what the fuck the Republican Party is? It's like, what the fuck is that, then?
Lead this, but I actually do think that Republicans, they would buy what she's selling because they don't necessarily verify anything. A lot of Republican voters are very gullible. That's not to say that there aren't gullible Democratic Party voters, but Republican voters, they don't verify. They just hear the talking points, the buzzwords, and they think, okay, that person belongs in my tribe, and that's it. So Tulsi Gabbard knows that she can get away with...
Because they're pretty much groomed into, you know, the tribalistic buzzword back and forth shit.
What she couldn't get away with.
I mean, it's, you know, kind of a part of what we were talking about yesterday a little bit. At least when it came to the topics tribalism.
With the left. Remember, she tried to position herself as a progressive, as the heir to Bernie Sanders' throne. But the left saw through that when she ran for president. So, you know, they verified, they checked her record, but she knows that Republican voters aren't going to do that. So that's why she is now potentially positioning herself to be
I'd never be a fascist.
A Republican presidential candidate.
And of course,
but really, I think
no notification, not surprised.
Possibly about her trying to get a show on Fox News. And that, I think, is actually very realistic. As John Whitehouse tweeted, Tulsi Gabbard has made at least 100 appearances on Fox News evening programming, 7 p.m. through 11 p.m., including a whopping 46 appearances on Tucker Carlson's show, including guest hosting it. So if you've made...
Guest hosting it? Yeah, she basically is, you know, eventually going to get a gig there. She's, you know, she's, you know, prepping herself for a gig at Fox News. She likely, you know, isn't going to see much of an advancement in her political career anymore, but... you know, she's most certainly is gonna, you know, take an appearance on Fox News to be their token Polynesian former Democrat who left the left or whatever the fuck.
Fox News, if you guest hosted on Tucker Carlson, they're definitely interested. But I think that maybe they weren't interested in you as a host, as a permanent host, while you still have that Democrat label. Maybe that's why she's shedding it. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Either way, we know.
I guarantee you that's at least a part of it. And another part of it is that maybe, you know, down the line, she might, you know, try to make a run in a Republican election of some sort. She's just, you know, becoming you know, what her real colors are, which is honestly, you know, at worst fascistic and at best just an enabler of that. I left the left grift coming in nicely. Yep.
What you just watched with,
to be fair, I got back in the story. Well, that's fair enough.
One of her ads from 2020. She was never a very substantive politician. She was always very vapid and platitude driven, but just still, the difference here is very, very clear.
They say no money to give our teachers raises, no money for the opioid crisis, yet we waste billions every month on wasteful wars that haven't made us any safer. Families are forced into debt so their loved ones can get health care, while politicians push a defense budget greater than China, Russia, the UK, and Germany combined. I'm Tulsi Gabbard. I'm running for president and approve this message because it's time we invest in the American people, our families, and our future.
Blah, 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 blah. Notice how she also didn't necessarily say anything that's critically anti-war and shit. She mentioned a few things that might ostensibly make her sound like that, but never really anything concrete.
So she went from talking about healthcare to talking about cowardly wokeness and anti-white racism.
I can hear the right-wingers trying to hypocrite everyone if they nominated a woman for Republican president. They did get close in 2016, if you remember. Like, what was her fucking name? Carly Fiorina or whatever? She literally was a weird, freaky, creepy-ass lady that pretty much her main point was protect the babies because abortion is murder. Like, that was basically her only talking point, really. And the only reason why I remember her is because back in the day, my mom was fond of her, you know, for a while. Because of that fucking talking point.
She's full of shit. And if you are on the left and you still don't see it, then you are as gullible as the right. But I think that the overwhelming majority of leftists and even, you know, centrists, they can see that Tulsi Gabbard, she is effectively a right-winger. I say effectively because, again, I don't necessarily believe that she has a core political ideology. I think that she really doesn't have any values. Her values are what will get her to a position of power or influence.
Wait a second, hear Republicans sneering. I thought you wanted a female president. Well, yeah, of course. I mean, that's what they're always going to do. They do that no matter what. Like, even if it's a female president, a black president, or whoever the fuck. I guarantee you they probably do hypocrisy burns, you know, just because of Clarence Thomas being on the Supreme Court, being like, what? Are you being racist because he's black? And then, you know, so it's like, they always fucking do it. Like, I mean, you know, so it wouldn't be, you know, nothing new, and honestly, I would not be surprised whatsoever if that, you know, hypothetically happened, which I don't see happening anytime soon, at least with a female, just because, like, honestly, even with Marjorie Green, even if she tried to make a run, like, I don't see that succeeding. But, you know, all the different men in GOP, though, like DeSantis or fucking, like, hell, even Ted Cruz, as much of a fucking goofball shitty little dork that he is, like, I mean, at least to some extent, there's a possibility. You know, it's like, like, there's all these other, like, old fart men fucks, you know, and shit, but not really that many women, and the ones that are because of the far-right fascist ideological boost that's been happening with a lot of these Christian nationalists and white supremacists within their party. So, I mean, I guess outside of people like, you know, Sarah Palin and shit. So, I mean, it's fascist girl boss, yay! Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just like, I don't care if, you know, like, the fascism is a girl boss or not, fuck it. Like, no, fuck that shit. It's gross. Boo. Which there is one that is out there, Maloney. The fucking Alfredo peddling Italian prime minister fucktard, so...
Is about. She's made it abundantly clear, and she will flip on a dime if it means that she can position herself for a better grift. I mean, we all saw her run a campaign against regime change wars, and then she endorsed the drone war, essentially. I think it was...
Yeah, because she's not anti-war. She's just anti-regime change wars. Like, she's against, changing the regime of a government, but she's okay with collaborating with that said government to, have a fucking war and shit. Maybe not a full-on ground war, like with a regime change war would imply, but with, drone strikes, covert operations, special force units, and collaboration with the Air Force and shit like that. And drone strikes, so it'd be shit like that. Not a full-on, like, boots-on-the-ground type of shit. Because she's smart enough to know that traditional warfare doesn't necessarily, add more stability or safety, even here at home or whatever the fuck. It's doing more covert operations and being a lot more tactful and soft with the approach instead of just doing full-on shock and awe blitzkrieg campaigns.
So she has no values. She is an empty vessel, and she's just going to do what makes her money. I think that everyone sees that by now. And this video is hilarious because I don't think there were many people that thought she was a Democrat still. I certainly thought that she had quietly exited the Democratic Party, but still, again...
A grifter can't just quietly do things.
You don't lose this opportunity to make money and gather more support. Of course, you're going to make a huge amount of noise in order to better position yourself for your next grift, and that's what she did. And in a way, we're guilty of buying into it by even talking about this grifter, but again, if it wasn't
not really.
I just had to make it abundantly clear. Tulsi Gabbard is completely full of shit, and if you don't see it, congratulations. You're dumb.
Dumb. Oh, this is a good outro. Sons of bitches. You woke moralists.
I dreamed I saw my maternal grandmother. She was stroking herself absent-mindedly.
I let her have her way. Generation was exposed. I let her have her way. Fuck you, Mike. That's such a horrible but bass blessed outro. Ignore, I got a joke for you. What's a cat's favorite Chinese dictator? I already know where this is going. Chairman Mao. Chairman Meow. I already know where that's going. That one is a dad joke that was seen a mile away. Om nom nom. Here. What random shit's happening on this fine tube? On these series of tubes. Oh, Kyle responded. Oh, wow, Kyle made a 24-plus minute video talking about Tulsi leaving the party. Jesus, Kyle. Man. We'll be back on later. Yeah. I was initially having a plan to go to Elk Rock with my homeboys to play some poker and shit. But also, like, it hasn't really totally been confirmed with everybody else, if that's if it was a possibility to do that, because no one else has responded. But it was also called in because I saw yesterday that basically, like, almost, like, nobody was fucking scheduled today. Like, there was pretty much, like, one closer, one cook, and then two openers. That's pretty much fucking it. And I'm just like, what the fuck? So I just kind of assumed that there was some possibility of me being called in today, and of course, it was. So I'm like, alright, I'll be there, I don't know. Do like 4 to 5, somewhere around there. So basically when I get up there, I'm just gonna be like, hey, let's just get this shit closed down as soon as possible and just GTFO, because I don't want to, like, be here that long. Because if everyone else is still down for a poker at Elk Rock and shit, then I'm definitely gonna want to be down for that. Because I also have a whole set, with, like, chips and everything that we can use. So, that'd be nice. Which I have up here somewhere. It's either up here or it's in my room. But, it's kind of fucking annoying. I love how, like, basically, that we, like, It's like, hey, let's get a new manager, but basically they do like as much surface dressing as possible while literally not improving anything. Color me fucking shocked. It's like pretty much like literally fucking like putting lipstick on a pig. It's like, hey, look, here's a pig. Let's put some lipstick on it and have it a wig. See? It's better. Glop, glop, glop. What the fuck are you? There's a random bug on my finger. What the hell? Where did this little bastard come from? You have wings. You apparently landed on me. Fly. Fly, my pretty. Oh, there it goes. What in the fuck are you doing? I think he saw a fly, and now he's like, oh, I think I see the fly he was after. Oh, shit. God damn. I was gonna try to light it. But no, it flew away. Damn. Boo. Boo. Here, Jon Stewart embarrasses top anti-trans Republican. Jon Stewart, you base man, you.
Something. It's going to be very interesting. So, we don't talk about Jon Stewart that much, but he is back with a vengeance. He's been memeing on his little show. It's called The Problem with Jon Stewart. I originally thought it was like The Problem with him, and he just talked about... I thought it was just like a sort of like live therapy session or something, but fortunately or unfortunately, it's not. It's different. Yeah, it's the Trauma Dump Show. It's the Trauma Dump Show. But it is not that. And what he actually does is find out the problem with things, and he talks about them. It's incredibly possible. Let's take a look at it.
Why would the state of Arkansas step in to override parents, physicians, psychiatrists, endocrinologists who have developed guidelines? Why would you override those guidelines?
Well, I think it's important that all of those physicians, all of those experts, for every single one of them, there's an expert that says we don't
follow the guidelines
need to allow children to be able to take those medications.
So
why? Why? Like, obviously, there's new guidelines that have been updated and provide better outcomes, especially for children, because of these new guidelines and shit when it comes to treatment. So, why? And also, if there are physicians or doctors that, disagree or whatever, well, they're fucking wrong and their opinions don't matter about, don't, like, the facts don't care about their feelings. Like, they're, like, what, am I supposed to care about their feelings? Like, when, Crimea River, put your big boy pants on.
Like to do. This is just factually incorrect. What they like to say is, oh, well, sure, you got all that research and everything, but I saw on Twitter that, like, this is cringe, so we gotta ban it, sorry. There's, like, it's the mythical, like, just gesturing to everybody agrees with me here. It's just this much on the other side. This just isn't true. It's just factually not true. The world wouldn't be on the same page if it was true. It's not.
Because if it was, there'd legitimately be like a actual, like, back and forth on like what the consensus of it's about. But since there already is a consensus about it, that basically means and implies that there isn't like equal, back and forth going on about it. It's as if there are outliers that just don't like the fact that, things change and, things adapt accordingly to, how people are as we understand more about the human condition, human physiology, and psychology. So it's just like the more we learn about it, the more we understand, and thus the more we know. And that includes, like, how do we best accommodate people who are trans or non-binary? Because that's a real psychological human phenomena.
This doesn't happen where all of these countries in the most developed world are on the same page with this, but you are just not. That's not how this works. Medical research doesn't move it doesn't move towards something if there's so much arguments against it. And a lot of doctors wouldn't pick this stuff up if there was as well. That's just not how this works. Like, these doctors, no matter what you think about these doctors, okay? I'm sorry. Doctors don't not provide care because you are mean, because, like, some trans people are going to be mean to them on Twitter. Or the
I mean, that literally go against the Hippocratic Oath. Like, I mean, there's, like, a literal oath that doctors and nurses take and shit, where it's like they do no harm when it comes to patients and, to the public. Like, I mean, it's not like there are doctors and nurses that don't, like, violate it, but there comes very severe and serious consequences in doing so, especially if they're caught. And usually, in a lot of instances, in most cases, they usually are. Because, especially with social media, it's kind of hard to go against the Hippocratic Oath when you have, like, legitimately, like, they're, dipshit doctors, like, posting shit on TikTok and, basically blaring out to the world their shit, or, like, patients that, call out, botched surgeries and things like that. It's like there's, like, it's just so, it's a lot more harder for a doctor to be like, nah. Well, maybe back in the day, it probably would have been more easier.
Which is like they'll be canceled, but sometimes they're canceled and then, like, nothing happens. Only if they, like, decide to be canceled or something, right? This isn't. It's not real. Okay, this isn't real. They're not, like, as oppressed as you try to believe that they are. People can speak out against it, and they can. If lots of people have, and they've been dropping article after article after attempted paper after attempted paper. It's just not this. It's just the research on these conservatives' end for their idea that this is a bad surgery or they're bad, like, practices when it comes to hormone therapy or anything shouldn't be done is just factually incorrect, and they should feel bad about it. If I'm gonna be honest, it's just not true. It's just not true.
I mean, honestly, I'd say that, like, at best it's just ignorance, and at worst it's just straight up pseudoscience bullshit that's peddled to try to push like a propaganda purpose. Like, I mean, it's kind of like how I feel about, a lot of it. It's like, because there are people that I think are legitimately, like, ignorant of these ideas and just don't know better and just need to be educated on it. And then, especially if they're, like, a fucking doctor or someone like Jordan Peterson or some shit, they're doing it with very strong malintent because they're propagandists and they know what the fuck they're doing. Including this lady. Like, she's doing it with very malintent. Like, if Jon Stewart was talking to, like, John Doe Joe Schmo or some shit, I'd just say that dude's probably just ignorant of ideas and shit. It's like, I mean, at least for me, I think I'd add that tiny little tidbit of caveat, but at least, when it comes to, who Jon Stewart was talking to, and usually, especially the big commentators and perpetrators of this shit, it's always generally done with propagandist agenda-based purposes, and thus, really just making more people ignorant of the, real science of it, which just makes it harder, to try to educate people on these ideas.
Many instances where...
But that's not true. It's not for everyone. There's one.
It's not true.
These are the established...
Well, I don't know that. It's not true. I don't know.
I don't know that's not true. You're supposed to, like, you're a politician. Like, you're supposed to, like, hey, if I don't know a thing, let me get, one of my, like, aides to get, some research and give me a quick synopsis of this shit. I want, give me a quick overview of it. Like, you're a politician. You're supposed to, like, know, like, you're supposed to, like, know these things on a very general level if you're going to be heavily discussing them.
Why would you pass a law then if you don't know that that's true? Wouldn't you?
Well, I know that there are doctors.
Huh. Interesting. Well, I mean, I don't know that it's... Well, I know it's true. You don't know if it's true. Well, I don't know that it's not true. Well, if you do, then why in the world would you be stepping in on something that you have no clue about? This is what they do. These people move before they think. And they speak before they think as well. And honestly, it's like step 1, speak, step 2, think. I don't know if they ever got to the step 2 part, if I'm going to be honest. At least, by the depiction of this, it doesn't seem like they ever got to the step 2 think part. It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. I'm sorry. The research says one thing, and that's care for these people is good, generally. Now, when when that care should start, and what and like when exactly that care should start, and what measures should be there in place when it comes to the access to this, and what exactly should be done. That's on the fringes, and I think that honestly should be up to doctors, parents, and the kids themselves, and not the state to jump in and tell you what should and should not be done. That's not the state's place.
Doctors, and that we had plenty of people come and testify
shit.
before our legislature who said that, we have 98% of the young people who have gender dysphoria, that they are able to move past that, and once they have the help that they need, no longer suffer from gender dysphoria. 98.
So what does that mean? And where's the basis of this? Like, I mean, I'd imagine that, hey, if there are kids that feel gender dysphoric and they actually get treatment for it in a positive outlet where it, confirms their identity and shit, yeah, they probably don't feel so gender dysphoric anymore. It's like, honestly, I mean, I guarantee she's, cherry picking very specific details and information and just using it, to fit her fucking narrative. Because, usually how, people don't feel so gender dysphoric anymore is because they get gender-affirming care. Thus, they don't feel so dysphoric about their body as much anymore because they're more affirmed to how they legitimately feel.
Out that medical triage.
That's an incredibly made-up figure. That doesn't comport with any of the studies or documentation that exists from these medical organizations. What medical association?
Because it's pseudoscience. If anything, it's been cherry-picked, to suit a fucking narrative.
What are you talking about of these doctors?
Well, we have all of that in our legislative history, and we'll be glad to provide that to you. I don't
What does that mean? It's in our legislative history. It's like, who gives a fuck? I could give a shit about what legislative history has on this shit. Like, what?
I know it's something that...
You don't have the name of the organization that
off
you're
the top
getting
of my
that
head.
Oh, okay.
But yes, we have all of that cited in all of our briefs.
You're suggesting that protecting children means overriding the recommendations of the American Medical Association.
That's true. So
yeah,
the American Association of Pediatrics, the Endocrine Society.
We don't have it.
So yes, the answer is yes. She does believe that. Yes. So here's the thing, so what they're referencing is not like kids with diagnosed gender dysphoria. What they're talking about is kids who show signs that they may not be completely gender conforming, which is true because all kids show signs to some degree that they may not be gender conforming when they grow up. Okay, there are lots of boys who play around with Barbie dolls for a little bit, and there's lots of girls who don't want to wear dresses. Okay. When
I was growing up, there was times where my mom literally caught me fucking around for makeup kits and shit just for the fuck of it. Where it's just I mean, it's just because because I saw her apply lipstick and shit, I would grab it and just and honestly, it just literally get all over my fucking face, and then my mom would catch me and be like, oh, well, now I have to clean your face because you got my lipstick all over your face. So it'd just be shit like that. I mean, so honestly, he isn't wrong. There are, as you're a kid growing up, the whole concept of gender and gender norms it doesn't apply because it's not even really much of a thing in your head. In your head, you're just a kid. There's just a lot of various different things that I'm honestly just thinking off the top of my head of times of just me growing up, that weren't gender conforming, but yet, it's I'm fine being a male. I'm accept that and shit. I'm okay with it. I wouldn't really give a fuck either way, but yeah, whatever. It's just for me, obviously, I, grew up, having, a certain identity, a specific identity, but, for other people, it's going to be different, so just because, growing up, they might, not totally fit the norms doesn't inherently mean that, they're going to be, gender dysphoric or otherwise, but, the whole idea that, when you're a kid, and you don't necessarily abide by, what gender norms are set, that's true. Like, because there are definitely, girls that like to, kind of be more roughhousey and play like, how little boys might play and shit. And then there's going to be little boys that, might, play around with Barbie dolls or get into their mom's makeup kit and fuck around with the lipstick all over the face or some shit, you know what I mean? So, there's just going to be times where, like, kids growing up don't fit into gender norms. But it's mainly just because it's not a concrete concept in their head outside of how they identify, which is primarily a kid.
This is all true, and this is not something like interesting or groundbreaking or goes against like or goes against any research or anything. That part's true. But when it comes to the people who don't grow out of it, what do we do with them? That's the real question here. And that's why processes like puberty blockers came in. When you've established that, but also here's the thing. And while that's the case, those kids who, like, that boy who played with a Barbie doll for like a month when he was like 5, doesn't go on to get like, but then grew out of it, doesn't go on to get like bottom surgery. That doesn't happen, okay? I'm sorry, this doesn't happen. They grow out of it, and then they just move on with their lives. And typically they grow out of it by much earlier than 12 or 13, 14, 15, or 16. If you're experiencing that, like, in that age range, and like, I
mean, honestly, usually, like, it's more out of, sheer curiosity. Like, you kind of, especially as a kid, like, kids, get curious or into things, but once they usually, find something new that they're curious and interested about, then they just kind of drop the other thing. That's kind of usually how it is. So, yeah, if you get, like, a little boy that's, like, 5 or some shit that plays around with Barbie dolls because there's, like, some old toys that his older sister has left over or some shit or whatever the fuck, then, yeah, he's probably going to play with it. But if he gets a new toy or some shit and likes that a lot more, then he's not going to play with Barbie dolls anymore. He ain't going to give a fuck. He's going to play with that other toy, because he likes that a lot more. So it's just like, it's just literally out of sheer curiosity is why kids, get hyper fixated on a certain thing and then move on to another thing, because kids are literal info sponges. Like, they want to basically absorb all the information of a thing they're into, and once they pretty much did that, they go on to the next. Like, that's pretty much what kids are.
To psychiatrists for it, and you go to like other doctors for it, so what is it with those people? What about the people who are in their teens, especially early teens, and they go through like psychiatry and through psychologists for? What's the range of those people that grow out of like gender dysphoria? What range of those people are? What's that? What about the people who are diagnosed with gender dysphoria? How many of those people just grow out of it? What you'll find is that the answer is not that many. And some who do, that's fine. They grow out of it. That's what puberty blockers are for. That's what you know what happens when you take puberty blockers? Your puberty gets blocked. And then they're given the opportunity to understand and grow. And be like, is this the path I really want to take or not? A lot of them will say no. And this is not the path that I want to take. This is not who I am. I just, it just blows past. That's okay. That's fine.
Yeah. Honestly, that's why having gender affirming care and trans-elective surgeries and things like that, especially for kids that growing up, I think especially is so important. Because, especially when, children, especially going for puberty, are trying to kind of, like, figure themselves out and, better understand their own self. Like, there are going to be people that might think, oh, maybe I might be trans, but then go for, puberty block phase, for a little bit to, kind of go for at least, the beginnings of the procedures and realize, oh, maybe this isn't, necessarily how I feel. Maybe I'm just, feel more this way. And then, like, kind of move on from it, essentially. But that's, I think, part of the nourishing and, uplifting when it comes to, this type of care and having it normalized, because, it allows, kids, and it allows people to, go out and be like, hey, let's fucking, like, see how I actually am, and fucking friend distracted me, piece of shit. But, like, all in all, these type of things, just, they shouldn't be seen as such a big fucking deal. Because, like, it's not like kids are literally getting surgeries or some shit. Like, those aren't a thing ever. If anything close to that would be from the far-right religious zealotries, when it comes to, circumcision and shit like that, but they usually do that pretty much right when you're fucking born. So, I mean, it's like, if there is any, surgeries being done on children, it comes from a lot of the fucking religious right.
Ones who do, though. Because the ones who don't, they're already protected. There's already processes in place that will make it so that once they're like, yeah, I'm not sure if I want to go through with this, that they'll not be given like any more treatment, and they'll be left on their puberty blockers until they decide that they don't want to be on them anymore. The people who do, those are the ones that we really need to protect, because those are the people who conservatives try to pretend don't exist at all. They really need the help there. They really do. And those people don't fall out of gender dysphoria or anything. That's a real condition that they have, and it's not something that's going anywhere anytime soon. And then those kids move on to be able to open up possibilities of surgery, typically later, or because surgeries don't typically happen before 16. They usually happen around like 16, 17, 18, when you'd be making like more grown-up decisions for yourself anyways, like when it comes to like what college.
I think it usually just kind of is based on like when legally you're adult. Like, I'm sure in like other countries, I know at least for some it's like 16 is when legally you're like considered an adult, or at least in like most aspects. So I'm sure in those places that's where it is, but I think in the US it's 18.
But like how much tax burden you're going to take, and like leaving the house and stuff like that a lot of people go through, right? And that's the typical age of emancipation. So if you're old enough to like be emancipated, it's typically the age where with like the blessings of like a psychologist and like an endocrinologist and other doctors, you can get surgery or other hormones like
I guess there's this caveat with like people who might be emancipated and shit,
and like testosterone. But it's not. But people like this woman and people like Matt Walsh always like to pretend that kids just cartwheel, like a little boy cartwheels into the like pediatrician, and they go, I feel like a girl today, and then they sit the kid down. Freaking my bad. They like he cartwheels into the pediatrician, and he goes, I think I want to be a girl, and the fucking doctor turns around with their katana, and they just go, and they instantly just cut off his dick just like that, and like a cartoonishly like robot arms come out of the walls and like take off his clothes and then slip on a dress like super quick. That doesn't happen. It does not happen. I'm sorry, doctors have already thought about this before. Doctors are typically smarter than your average conservative politician by orders of magnitude.
I mean, no shit. Like, honestly, in a lot of ways, I, at least to some extent, would, at least with social policies, would rather let them run shit.
They've already.
I feel like doctors, at least on, social views, would be, like, magnitudes better than, like, any fucking Republican.
Is that you're not smart? I'm not that smart. You're not very smart, okay? I'm sorry.
Enough data. We don't have enough to show that these drugs are effective and that these children
yeah, we do.
are better
There's really consensus on it.
And that we should encourage
these. Or it's not enough for you. Let me
massive
try
question.
Flip it a different way and see if maybe this can help.
That's actually kind of a good little rebuttal. Damn.
So, if you have pediatric cancer, and obviously we all want to protect children, I think we established that earlier. Whose guidelines do you follow for pediatric cancer?
Well, I think if my child, who is 4, if I was faced with that terrible decision.
Oh, wow, you have to make it all about you, huh? What about other fucking kids? What about their parents, huh? Oh, it has to basically be with your kid, no one else's? Selfish bitch.
Speaking to my doctor, and if my doctor recommended something that I disagreed with, then I would get a second opinion. And that's what I believe, that these parents need to make sure that they're encouraged to get numerous opinions when they're talking about an irreversible step.
You're not letting them. The state's not saying get another opinion. What they're saying is you can't.
Because honestly, I don't even necessarily think it would be that bad for kids who we believe are experiencing gender dysphoria under the age of 16 to need 2, maybe even 3 recommendations from medical professionals.
I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with it either. I mean, if anything, I think having different medical professionals involved, with that type of care, I think is actually probably a good thing. Because then there's, more of a consensus about, where to move forward, with something like that. So, I mean, at least in my mind, I mean, I'm not even against that as an idea, but, I mean, it's like, the one thing about these Republicans, though, when they always try to mention some shit like that, is that, oh, I'd rather fucking, have a second, third opinion, blah, 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 blah. But then, when push comes to shove, they essentially just like, no. Like, I won't, accept these opinions and stuff, and in fact, you can't have these options, fuck you. So, that's why, I really specified, like, oh, it's curious how she mentions that it has to be her kid, when it comes to, making the type of argument and shit, versus, just in general for, like, the people in her state.
Like, surgery, or even things like testosterone, something along those lines. Like, I don't think that's, like, so bad, right? We'll have to, like, open up, like, avenues for that and make sure that those people can get there. And I think, like, free healthcare is a great thing to be able to do that. So it won't be a money, oh, jeez, I'm dropping things. So it won't be a money barrier, right? So here's the thing, is that in a lot of places, they already do that. So here's the wild thing, okay? So it's not like trans healthcare around the country is not uniform at all. It's not uniform in any way, shape, or form. There are some places that require...
Because of it being privatized. Thanks for profit healthcare, yay!
You need to be at, like, a certain age. There are some places that it's completely up to, like, the doctors. There are some laws around it, and there's some but mostly it's hospital policies around it, more than anything. And typically, you need one recommendation. I'm not sure what all of the hospitals that perform gender-affirming care in Arkansas, what their policies are. I know for a fact this woman doesn't either, and she doesn't give a shit about it.
If anything, I guarantee you they probably, considering, a lot of their policies on it, probably don't allow trans-affirming care to happen. Considering that it's fucking Arkansas. Just gonna take a hunch.
If they just said you need just like two, like you need like a psychologist and like a psychiatrist and a pediatrician to sign off and be like, yeah, this makes sense, then typically it's fine. Because if they already do it, then they could just play to their base and be like, we're helping kids, but also like stay within the bounds of like reasonable policy, and it wouldn't affect any hospitals for providing any of the care. If I'm going to be honest, that's like I don't necessarily think it's needed. But if they do something like that, that's fine. Also on that.
But it never would be about that, because these type of people aren't just about, like, quote unquote protecting children, because that's just a surface dressing and a talking point to justify their actions. Like, because that's not what they're trying to actually legitimately push for. Like, I mean, and obviously I know, this guy, knows this bullshit, and they don't do that. Because, I mean, fundamentally, what they're about is just basically, causing maximization of harm and basically trying to erase trans people from existence and make it so they're not a thing in society. Which is inherently like a bigoted, hateful, fucking, really just outright Nazistic mentality that they have with it. Because essentially, it's just like the new fucking scapegoat for a lot of these bigoted, hateful pieces of shit. Because back in the day, it used to be gay people, but before then, it was, like more in fervently, black people and shit. And they're still about that as well. But there's, like, a lot of these elements, that are still bigoted about and shit, but when it comes to the real main target, it's trans people right now. Because, it's a lot easier, to discriminate against when there's not many policies, protecting them, at least federally especially, and when not many people understand it. That's why, it's such a, venomous and such a poisonous mentality to just be like, oh, trans people just don't exist, and, it's like, there's actually, like, more, like, consensus back and forth about it, and blah, 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 blah. It's like, no. There's like a full-on consensus about what it's about, and it's, to affirm trans people in their care, not the other way around, where it's like you basically try to essentially erase the fact that they do fucking exist, because they've always have existed since fucking humanity's been a goddamn thing. So it's just like, how is it any different today? Just because, we're starting to better understand it and normalize it more? It's like, oh no, it's so scary. It's like, give me a fucking break. But anyway, better go in and help deal with the bullshit at work right now, I suppose, But hopefully I try to make it quick and see what the game plan is for tonight with the homeboys and shit. Anyway. I'll be back on later tonight, possibly, so peace out. And if not, I'll see you all till that next one.